Welcome to building the premier accounting firm, having the premier accounting, bookkeeping, or tax business in your area. This podcast is dedicated to helping accounting professionals start and build accounting businesses with confidence and competence. As part of these episodes, what we do in the podcast is actually share information from the experts to help you actually apply these principles in your company, learning how to best market your services, get the clients you deserve, get paid what you're worth, and most importantly, work efficiently and profitably. So I invite you to join us in each of the episodes to come take notes and listen in. So subscribe now to the podcast. Also, I'm Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and I'm your host. I've been working for more than 20 years with accounting professionals to help them start and build their accounting businesses. And in this time, I've made many friends. I've experienced many successes, and more importantly, learned some of the shortcuts to create more or less a turnkey process to starting and building successful accounting businesses. So with today's episode, I'm excited to actually invite back a guest that we've had previously in the podcast series. And if you've not heard her before, I encourage you to go back and listen to our conversation with Femke Hogema. She actually is a guest that started her career as a financial controller for a large international company. And admittedly, she loves figures and the clarity of the figures that are provided that share really what the company's health is. It is the language of business after all. But she also saw that entrepreneurs don't like figures and numbers. In fact, they dislike sometimes working with the controllers, bookkeepers, or accountants that they may be interacting with. So because entrepreneurs find figures boring and complicated and theoretical, and perhaps even distant from the work that they're doing, she started her own company, Healthy Finance, to close the gap between the entrepreneurs and the figures and to help entrepreneurs get a grip on their numbers. She's given many lectures and does training courses. She's written some best-selling books. For example, she's written Finance for the Solopreneur, The Profit Advisor, and then recently, Profit Plans. And with that, Femke makes figures fun, practical, and accessible. And in the course of 10 years, she's inspired tens of thousands of entrepreneurs to build a financially healthy and profitable business. Now, since 2017, Femke's actually focused on training accounting and bookkeeping professionals to become profit advisors through the Profit First Professionals Netherlands system. Now, with this, she teaches accountants and bookkeepers so that they can turn and support their entrepreneurs in growing a financially healthy and profitable business. Now, Femke loves to teach and actually help people build their own profitable companies, which yield more pleasure and satisfaction. Now, just so that you're aware, Femke has also been featured as a financial coach in a popular television show in her national television there in the Netherlands. In 2019, she wrote a #1 bestseller. As I mentioned, it's called Profitable Plans. The book reached a #1 position in the Dutch National Management Book tier with the top 100 and was there for 1.5 weeks, with the publication keeping the top position for 28 days. This best-selling book is now available worldwide, and again, it's called Profitable Plans. She gives both keynote addresses in Dutch and English and is a profit advisor with Profit First Professionals and Profit Plans. So, Femke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger. It's so great to be back here.
This is quite fun. You know, I have to say, I see your face quite a bit. I've seen it recently with your the 30-minute solutions with Martin, and I was recently talking to James Malfidis down in South Africa. I'm just bouncing into you all over the world. This is amazing.
Well, that's good to hear, and I think that's kind of the goal of 2021 to be visible all over the world. So it seems as if already I've been successful.
That's right. Well, just this morning I was communicating a little bit with Martin Bissett in England, and yesterday I was talking to James Malfidis in South Africa. And so you're right, it's becoming kind of a global thing as we interact with our accounting professionals around the world, and you do an excellent job of that. Recently, you and I have interacted with Mike Michalowicz and Ron Shaharian with Profit First. So it seems like we're kind of interconnected in a variety of circles.
Yeah, yes, we are. That's awesome. And I think it's even if you introduce me, it's a long story, but it all comes down to the same thing. And this is that entrepreneurs have great goals and great visions. And as accounting professionals, we are more than just the people to help them with their compliancy work. We should actually help them reach their goals. And I've written many books, and I'm obviously visible in different circles, but it all comes down to how can we help entrepreneurs reach their real goals.
I appreciate you saying that because when we work with our clients, the business owners, it's really all at the end of the day about them, and it's helping them run their businesses to become more profitable, more successful, giving them the success that they most likely started the company to achieve, and we can be an integral part of that. So you mentioned that you've written books. I had that in your bio. Why another book? What drove you to write something else?
Yeah. So I have three more books in my head. So one of the things is, Roger, I just really like writing. Writing is for me it's it's um it's a flow thing. So I really like to write. But this specific book, Profitable Plans, this is a system that I've been teaching entrepreneurs for well, almost 10 years. And I thought it is time to put this in the book because it's just an awesome system. And I say entrepreneurs, but now, of course, we're talking to accountants. But this is something that is really interesting for accountants. But I thought this needs to be a book. And well, I wasn't wrong because you already mentioned it. It got a #1 position, and now it's also available worldwide. So that's pretty awesome, honestly.
Awesome. It is awesome, and congratulations for that because it's honestly something many authors and book writers never accomplish, never accomplish. So you've done very well. So
Thank you.
one thing that I can agree with you, when you're in an entrepreneurial mindset, you have a lot of things in your head, in your mind, as you're thinking about what it is you do and how to do it. And it oftentimes will boil down to processes and systems. And I agree, as you've been out teaching this for a few years, there comes a point where when you can write it down and actually put it into a book format, that it really becomes more concise and even more understandable simply because you have to now put it into writing.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to take what's in your head and explain it verbally or even better written, all of a sudden it just takes on a whole new life because it becomes more clear to the recipients. So many people learn through vision, through reading, and as you can provide those different mediums for people to learn things, they're going to retain it and be able to apply it better. And that's what you're doing is you now take these principles that you've been teaching for a few years and put them into the book. So what is Profitable Plan?
Yeah, Profitable Plan is, if I say it well, almost bluntly, because it's much nicer than that, but to make it very understandable, it is kind of what we would call a budget. So Profitable Plans is budgeting for entrepreneurs. But there is a very big but. Most accountants know what a budget is, and many accountants might even make a budget for their own firm or for their clients. But a budget rarely gives energy or focus or drive to actually take the right steps. So a budget is something that's on paper, and sometimes you need it for the bank or for another organization, but it's not something what makes us really enthusiastic, and it's not really something that helps us run our business. And there was a point in my career, and it's well, maybe almost 10 years ago, and my revenue doubled. And I knew a little bit about numbers because I also wrote the book Finance for Solopreneurs. And I was a controller, so I knew my numbers. But my revenue doubled, and I saw that my profit went down. And it wasn't so bad as that I had to worry because I still made a good living out of it. But I was a bit shocked. Like, okay, I know my numbers. I understand this. I've even done. I've made annual reports and everything, so I know the theoretical background. But what happened here? My revenue doubled, but my profit is less. And that was the first time that I made my own profitable plan. So I sat down and I made a plan, and it's just like a budget. It showed me what am I going to do, how much money will I make with it? What are the costs and how much profit will I make? But later I will go a little bit more into detail why it's so different from a budget. But I made this and it started to work. And then I thought, okay, this is something that everybody should do. So I started to give events and courses and teach people. And I have clients making lots of money just because of their profitable plan. And so I've actually been asking recently to accountant friends. I said, okay, I know it works, but tell me from your opinion, why does it work? Because everybody who is in this industry knows a little bit about budgets. So why is this so working so well? And they told me, well, they said budgeting is something that a lot of business people loathe because it has a scarcity mindset and they don't want to budget or it feels hard to budget. And a profitable plan is something that is abundant and it doesn't matter where you are, you can take a look at your business and figure out in advance what do I need to do to be profitable. And so it's about abundance and it's about making budgeting very down to earth, very easy, um, and not so much with difficult spreadsheets, but it all starts with easy post-it notes, and it's not something that's set in stone and can never change again. You can change it anytime, but it does give you focus to do the right things. So that's a long answer to your question, but that's the first short long answer.
The first short long answer. Well, let me kind of summarize what I was hearing you say, and I'll share even a personal example of it. You spoke of having a business that the revenues increased, but the profits decreased. And I've personally experienced that a few times in business. You end up working harder, you end up doing more, and you start to see initially the increase in revenue. And so you start to get excited. You're running the business and it's having the success you had hoped or even imagined. Now, all of a sudden, you go to run the numbers and you start looking at how it's trickling down to the net income, the bottom line. And all of a sudden you realize the margins aren't what they used to be. The money isn't what you expected it to be. In fact, you actually may be making less money profit than you really did before when you were generating less revenue. You were, in other words, more profitable when you had less revenue. And it's really where you start to understand the difference between fixed variables or fixed expenses and variable expenses. And all of a sudden, what happens is you start to understand the dynamics of what's happening in your business a little bit more. And at the surface, this all makes sense, especially to the accounting professional. These numbers make sense, but when you live it and experience it, it takes on a whole new experience simply because it is the bottom line and it is actual dollars. It's not made up numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. So first of all, I thought what you were sharing is so important to realize because there's an emotional connection to the reality of what you just described of growing a business, experiencing success, but in the end, not seeing the profits or the margins that you were accustomed to or expected. So let me ask this question. When you experienced that, what were the ahas? What were the things that caught you off guard that caused you to make less profit even though you were generating more revenue?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious to me because looking at my numbers, I could clearly see that I had grown my team. I had invested in software. I had built an online learning environment and invested big time in a video person to help me make the videos, but also someone to build the environment. So I've made a lot of investments, and that's really not a real problem. But even though I am financially literate, I did not see it coming. And I think you say emotion, Roger, and I think you are so right because what happens in entrepreneur lives and as accountants, it's very important that we see that. What happens in the life of an entrepreneur is he or she just works and works harder and works even harder and has great ideas and implements those ideas. And it's like he feels that he or she deserves a good profit and a good income to come from this. And it's really a step too far to expect from an entrepreneur to sit back every single time and calculate in advance, will I make money of this new idea? And that's where the accountant comes in, because we are the perfect profit advisors, coaches, profit coaches, to actually help them make those financial plans.
So let's take this emotional experience here and give it some context. When you take a solo entrepreneur and the solo entrepreneur reaches their potential in the sense that they can't scale anymore their business, they come to the realization that there's a lot of administrative things that's holding them back from doing sales related activities and generating even more revenue. So what the most common experience is they then hire someone. That investment in a new employee is a cost. And usually when you're a smaller organization, your most expensive thing that you have as an expense is payroll. So now all of a sudden, what used to be going to you perhaps as the owner now is being divvied out between you and this new employee. Well, they coming on take some training. What used to take you 1 hour now takes you 2 because you train someone else to do it. And for the first, let's say, month or 2 or 3 months, you're probably making less revenue because you're taking time to train this person. And in training them, they're coming up to speed. And in 3 months, you're back up to the revenue you used to make. But even though you're back to the same revenue, you're all of a sudden making less money because the net income's being impacted by this person's payroll you now have on board. It's not until the 6th month that you theoretically are capable of now focusing back on sales, increasing the revenue more, and therefore offsetting the expense of that employee such that you now have more income, or excuse me, more net income, more profit. I share that with you because I think what you said, Femke, is so true. As you invested in staff and in software and in hiring a videographer, you start investing in the company. And rather than seeing revenues go up and profits increase, you actually see revenues either plateau or go down and profits decrease for a period of time. And it's that dip in the business model that then allows us to then catapult up to the next level of our business model. So as you describe budgets, they're so helpful to actually help see that this pain of growth is going to be worth its while in the future because it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yes.
How's that? Did I do a good job summarizing that illustration?
Yes, you did a very good job. And what I would like to add is what happens is entrepreneurs at some point feel they need more staff, and then they will hire more staff. But they never ask the question what the impact will be on their numbers and if their pricing is still in line with this additional staff. So though this is another emotion coming up, but I need more staff. Okay, great, but let's see what it does to your numbers before we hire this person first.
Yes, and when you're talking about profitable plan, it's both short term and long term. There might be some investment that's going on that we're going to amortize over the future, or maybe expect to see a return on that investment in the future. But from a profitable plan, it's just that it's a plan. And there are some things that we do today to benefit us later on. So that's wonderful. So let me ask this. A profitable plan looks at a budget,
Yeah.
but why is this such a great aha for both the entrepreneurs and the accountants?
Well, what I see happen is when I ask accountants about their work and if they do compliancy or advisory work, they tell me, yeah, we do advisory work. And I ask them, what do you do? And sometimes they tell me, well, I make budgets for my clients. And what they often do is they take a look at last year and ask the entrepreneur, so what is your focus? And the entrepreneur says, okay, I want to grow 20%. Then they increase the budget by 20% or increase the actuals by 20%. And then they say, I made you your budget. And I hope I don't offend anyone because I can be very black and white in these examples, but it's just to make it clear. And this is something that the entrepreneur would never look at again. And if we say profitable plan, it's completely the other way around. A profitable plan is actually you as finance professional asking the entrepreneur, so tell me, what are your plans for the next 12 months? And sorry, and I always give my clients post-its, and I tell them, write all your plans, everything you want to sell, all your products and services, write them down for me on post-its. And those are your products or services in the first line of your P&L. It's the revenue. But you don't say revenue. You just say, tell me your plans, write them down. And this is the first step in the profitable plan. And what happens is already great because entrepreneurs have millions of plans in their head, but asking them to actually write them down on pieces of paper is such a relief. Finally, they have all those ideas that might have been in their head on paper, and they also see, oh, mighty, I have too many plans. It's not even possible to execute them all. So already in this first question, they're going to make decisions like, I cannot do this certain thing this year. I need to postpone it until next year, or it needs to go completely. So we turn it around and we ask the entrepreneur, what do you want to sell next year? What are your plans? And write it down. And that's the first step.
So I loved how you just explained that, because I just recently did this same thing with many of our clients and even our own company. And just to complement what you were saying, when you look at the top line revenue and you look at each of the line items as to how the company makes money, it's one thing to say that in the coming year, we're going to increase revenue in these areas. It's another thing to say, okay, let's pause and understand how that's going to happen. If revenue is going to happen here, is it a price increase that occurs? Okay, so if you sold the exact same number of units,
right,
and you did it at a higher price point, then we could see this much gain in that revenue. But what if we left the prices the same, and let's say you advertised more and generated more leads and got more sales from, let's go down to the advertising section now, let's allocate 10% more funds to this marketing venue. Well, if we get 10% more marketing, we're going to then, in that advertising expense, spending more in the marketing, generate 10% more up here in revenue. So we can then offset that and say we're going to see a gain here in revenue of that 10 or more percent. In other words, we can explain the correlation and show for money spent, we have money generated. But the last thing that I'd mention is sometimes they say, hey, in 3 months, we're going to hire a new person. Okay, so let's put on the payroll, this new payroll, this person's compensation. And we know that the average salesperson generates this much in that revenue line in sales. Well, the first month, we don't expect any revenue increase because we've got to train them. So we're going to show their payroll. But the next month, we're going to show their payroll, and we're going to show maybe a 25% increase in revenue because they're now coming on board with their new sales funnel. The third month, we have their payroll. But now in the third month, we're going to show a 50% increase in the revenue simply because we're showing them ramping up and coming up to speed with their sales funnel. And then at the fourth month, we're going to show that they're going to possibly be at 75 or 100% of production. What we're doing is we're explaining the top line revenue with very specific cause and effect reactions. We're spending more on marketing, we expect more revenue. We hired a new salesperson, we expect more revenue. Well, with that new employee, we got new employee benefit expenses, we've got workman's comp, we've got taxes. So we're able to very specifically show in the budget these changes that are occurring in the coming year of the business. I love how you've kind of explained how budgeting can be so helpful to helping the business owner visually understand how the decisions they're making in their company equate or show up in the numbers.
Yes, and I want to emphasize the importance of not the accountant telling the entrepreneur what's happening, but completely turn the conversation around and let the entrepreneur do the talking and let the entrepreneur say, okay, I want to increase the number of sales on this specific product. Okay, great. You can, on your spreadsheet, do this change so you make it visible for the entrepreneur, but let the entrepreneur do all the talking and let them explain how
Yes.
much services or products he wants to sell, what the new price is going to be. And then we just have a revenue number. Then we go down to the expenses and we ask the same question. And I always say some historical numbers, just copy them. I mean, the phone bill probably won't change except when it's a phone company you have as a client, but otherwise the phone bill won't change. So just copy that from last year. But all the other numbers, start with a clean sheet and ask them, okay, how much marketing costs are you going to need to make in order to achieve your goals? And then, of course, you can say, okay, but you currently have this staff, so let's take your staff as a starting point. But do you need more staff, and what's going to happen? Then you put all in all those expenses, and then the system will calculate the profit. But if the profit comes down to a loss, you've got feedback and you say, okay, so this is your plan, but currently your plan leads you to a loss. So what are you going to do? Do you want to increase the number of products, or do you want to increase the price, or do you want to cut some costs, or maybe even don't have your owner's compensation this year, or what is your plan? And you kind of kindly force the entrepreneur to make tough decisions before he starts doing the work while it's not going to be profitable to start with.
Well, the first thing that you shared there, I want to emphasize, you are 100% right. The intent of this whole conversation is for them to do all the talking.
Yeah.
You're asking the questions, and the hope is that they then create their budget. It's not we need to influence them and put down numbers that they don't understand. They need to understand each number and own them
Yes.
because they said what they are. This is their
Yes.
business. Now, just to complement what you were sharing about the expenses, what I've done is I've started, before we get into month by month by month, I start by asking about each line item in the expenses, and I ask three questions, ask them to identify it as one of three things. Is this a fixed number? It's a like rent, it's an agreed upon amount. It's going to be the same month after month after month. It's a fixed expense. Is this a variable expense? If you do something, does this cause this number to go up and down? And then the third is this is a choice number. It's a number you're allocating or budgeting. And how much do you choose to put there? And is that a number that you choose arbitrarily just because you want that number? Or is that number a number that you let fluctuate based on the number of employees you have, or the number of sales you had the previous month, or the number of sales you want to have that month? And so I want to understand these expenses, what impacts or causes them to be what they are. If it's a contract and a fixed amount, I want to know that. And I'm going to put that across all of the months as they are. Is there a month coming up in the new year where that's going to be expired or renegotiated? Yeah, in let's say in August, our lease comes due and we'll have a rent increase. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and show that that's at least going to increase. Maybe we'll assume 10%. You can arbitrarily put that out there. But the point is now every one of these numbers have context. It's not you just doing a 10% application and applying it to all the numbers. It's you intricately asking them, tell me what this number is. And so often in these conversations, I'm amazed. The business owner will honestly say, I don't know what that number is. I don't know how that number is what it is. And then you dive down into the expense details and you're like, well, over the last few months, this is what's come into these categories. This is what it's made up of. And there's sometimes surprises of, I thought we didn't pay that anymore, or I thought we finished paying on that, or I didn't know we were even paying that in the first place. And they start to clean up their finances and understand and own the numbers more. They become more aware of what's in there. And once they do that, they are so grateful to us because now the numbers have meaning. They know what they represent. And so that's powerful.
Yeah.
So when you look at all of this, how can the book, Profitable Plans, how does that benefit accountants?
Well, it's everything we've been talking about so far, outlined in a very easy to follow step-by-step system. And I mean, it's written for entrepreneurs to read, but I think if an accountant would read this, he would probably be a bit surprised. Like, okay, is this how I can help entrepreneurs? But it is. we are often so much expert in everything we know that also I make the mistake of thinking, yes, but you must surely have calculated upfront if this is going to be profitable. But too often it doesn't happen. So by reading the book, you will find out a lot about how entrepreneurs think. But I am confident, and I've heard from many accountants actually reading the book in the Netherlands, that this is something you can uh, add as an addition to your services. I mean, how awesome would it be to invite your best clients once a year, and it can be anytime. It doesn't have to be everyone in November to look at next year. You can also do this in June. It's a great month, or even in August to start after the summer in September. So you can do this at any time. It's not a budget. It's a profitable plan. And then sit with your best clients and have these valuable conversations. Show them that you are the profit advisor you want to be, and you tell them you are, and help your clients make their profitable plan. And you just have a new advisory service you can offer. You can sell this to them. It's like you can sit for half a day and then do some additional work behind the scenes, and then have a conversation of one more hour. You can just sell this as a service, but also following up on the plan every month, every quarter is a service you can sell.
Well, that book then would be helpful, as you said, for the entrepreneur and for the accountant. So let me break away here as a mention of our sponsors and point out that you can actually, as the listener of this podcast, go to the episode description and find information about the book Profitable Plans. You can go there and get some information and resources and some free downloads that Femke is providing that you can actually utilize as you're working with your clients. So I invite you to go to the episode description and there get the information you need to get the resources and free downloads that are available related to this book, Profitable Plans, and get your copy now. In addition, Universal Accounting Center is also offering a free copy of the book Red to Black in 30 days. It's a small business accountant's guide, a how-to guide to help accounting professionals actually help take their clients from being in the red to being in the black, being profitable. And this how-to guide actually explains specifically how you can price your service in offering this engagement, how to actually fulfill the engagement, and more importantly, turn your client around. So get your copy of both Profitable Plan and Red to Black in 30 days so that you can use these tools and resources as you work with your clients, and most importantly, provide a more quality service and lasting value in doing so by actually getting paid for what you're worth as a profit and growth expert. So the next thing I wanted to ask is, in your book, Femke, you actually address some things that are more than just the numbers. You actually talk about mindset, marketing, non-financial related topics. What can you tell us about that inside the book?
Yeah, and I did. And I kind of took the whole spectrum. I figured, so if you want to be profitable, where does it start? So the first section of the book is about mindset, and it's about your money mindset. And one of the downloads I have available is actually a list of more than 100 things people can say and think about money. And sometimes they're helpful, but most of the time they are not, because I mean, many people tell themselves things like, yeah, but I'm not worth it, or I will never have $1 million company, or the rich are greedy, or other mindset things that really don't help you make money. Well, I'm not saying that accountants should become psychologists all of a sudden, but it is really helpful to be able to notice the things your client is saying about money. And if your client is saying, yeah, but that's not for me, or I could never do that, you might just challenge your client a little bit just by saying, are you sure? And only saying, are you sure? Are you certain that you cannot do this? That is a great coaching question, because your client might open his eyes and be like, you're right, that is a good question. Why did I say this? And there you are.
Well, the one thing I can say about questions is the person who is asking the questions is the one who's in control. And honestly, the expert isn't the one with all the answers. They're the ones with the right
Right.
questions. And so if as accounting professionals, we can really consider and think, what can we be asking our clients to help them more or less think outside their realm of reality, their day-to-day business model, outside of the proverbial box that they may find themselves in. If we can ask questions that challenge their paradigms, we're going to help them see things differently and hopefully realize something that they didn't see before. That's partly our role, I think, is through the accounting information, is introduce to them information that they may not be seeing the way it actually appears in black and white in a financial report, let's say. So I like how you said mindset and asking questions. That's really helpful. So let me do this. I'd like to summarize a lot of what we've been speaking about here today, and then come back to Femke and see what closing comments she might have about what we've been discussing. But so far, what I think is very helpful is Femke, with her experience and background, she's written some amazing books that actually allow us as accounting professionals to help simplify the whole financial world for the accounting professional, or excuse me, for the entrepreneur. And for the entrepreneur, give them now information that is more for them to use and understand. It's not just being compliant. And what we're trying to do as accounting professionals is really get a little bit more involved with our clients to help them see that the numbers can help them run their businesses more profitably. The second thing that I thought was a very important takeaway is the power of budgeting. By actually helping sit down with the client and forecast out what they expect the business to do and what the costs will be for some of the decisions they're making and some of the benefits, what could come of these expenses that they're now spending their money on, and ultimately how it all then impacts the bottom line. In budgeting, I think if we can see, or more importantly, help the clients see the ramifications of the financial decisions they're making, they'll be either more educated as to what they're doing and why they're doing it. And more importantly, they'll plan better. Maybe I need to make this decision in 2 or 3 months after I've had some more time to put money in the bank and afford this decision, rather than just deciding it and trying to struggle in the coming months. Or, maybe this is the right thing to make and decision to do, because look at the win that I'll have in 5, 6, 7, 8 months down the line when I actually implement this and then can realize the benefit of it. So budgeting has its place and can be very powerful and can allow our clients to see another part of why we're so important in the business relationship that we have with them. And then lastly, Femke was very smart to point out that there is a mindset to all this. We obviously talked earlier about the emotions, but there's a mindset also. And if we can, as accounting professionals, recognize with our clients that there is an emotional element, there's a mindset element that plays into all these decisions that they're making, this will help us actually build better relationships with our clients and retain them longer. So I hope you've gotten some of these talking points captured in your own mind so that you can apply them in your business and the interactions that you're having with your clients. And then the second thing I'd like to mention is, again, a reminder about the sponsors. You can go to the episode description and there find the information you need to get those free resources and downloads related to the profitable plan, as well as get your free copy of the book Red to Black, the how-to guide for accounting professionals to help you actually take your clients from being in the red to being in the black and get paid for it as their profit and growth expert. Now, with all that being said, what final thoughts do you have that you'd like to share with us here, Femke?
Yeah, we've touched on asking questions a couple of times, and your last question was, there's more in your book also about marketing and sales and business models and strategy. And the thing I wanted to add about that is, accountants have been taught for 10 years, maybe even more, to have the right answers. And I think the big challenge for accountants these days is to ask more questions and don't feel that they have to know all the answers. And one of the things that this book is also going to give you is insight in sales and marketing and strategy for entrepreneurs. And you don't have to be a marketing expert to ask your clients questions about marketing to get them to find their own answers. So so that's my final thought. Just enjoy asking questions, and please remember, you don't have to have all the questions. Just asking great answers is a huge benefit to your clients.
Amen. Hallelujah. You said it exactly as it should be said. The power of what we're doing with our clients really starts to go to a whole new level when we start asking the right questions. They will see us differently when we start asking the challenging questions that they, as the business owner, have to answer and have to decide for themselves. It is their company after all. So thank you for ending on that note. So here's the thing that I want to encourage everyone that's listening to do. Obviously, go ahead and listen to our other episodes. You want to take advantage of the other experts that we've interviewed and the tips and tricks that are found there. Definitely subscribe to the podcast so that you can go ahead and get notifications as to the upcoming episodes as they're released. And for more information about how to apply these principles and actually work on your business so that you can in fact get paid what you're worth, I invite you to reach out to us here at Universal Accounting. You can go to universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call, 801-265-3777. And always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care, have a wonderful day, and thank you very much.